Welcome to Masterlist, and in today's video of craziest laws in the world, we are having a look at France. The French have their own set of ridiculous rules which will surprise you and leave you questioning reality. For example, did you know that you are not allowed to take photographs of the Eiffel Tower at night? We know this sounds completely unbelievable, but stay with us as we explain to you why and how this is true alongside 10 of the most extraordinary laws in France that you should know before you visit here. So let's get started right now. Number 10. You can legally marry a dead person in France. Remember when they said, "Till death do us part"? The French have quite literally taken it one step beyond that. Yes, you can marry a dead person in France. No, you don't have to kill yourself for that. Also known as posthumous marriage. This kind of marriage is possible if you can prove that the dead person had the intention of marrying you. Don't see this as a loophole to earn a French citizenship though, because there are a few points that are checked prior to the marriage. There needs to be a serious reason for the marriage and the President of France must approve it. If all the conditions are met, then the marriage is backdated to the day before the bride or the groom died. This move was made to legitimize the children born out of wedlock during the World War when the partners of pregnant women would die in the war. Even now, every year, a handful of posthumous marriage take place in the country. So is it right to say, "and they lived happily ever after"? You know, one of them is already dead. Never mind. Number 9. It is illegal to die in the town of Cognac. Guys, whatever you do, just don't die here. Yes, dying is illegal on the grounds of this commune in France unless you already possess a coffin and a cemetery plot where you can be buried. The municipal law was put into effect by the mayor when, due to overpopulation of the city's cemetery, he found himself in an unusual position where he was running out of lands for burying the citizens. This led him to pass the ridiculous law which prohibits people from dying. The law does state that any offenders will be severely punished for their actions. But how exactly do the authorities plan on doing it? Can you give a death sentence to a dead person? Number 8. It is illegal to fly over or land flying saucers in the town of Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Aliens, take note. Find somewhere else to land your flying saucer unless you want a parking ticket slid under your windshield wipers, because it is illegal for UFOs and flying saucers to fly over or land in this town. This law has been in force since the 1950s when the UFOs and alien kidnappings were the hot subjects. In 1954, a man in northern France reported that he saw two figures emerging from a cigar-shaped UFO. That was when the mayor at the time asked that a law to be created to prevent UFOs from flying over the town or land there. Moreover, this served as a marketing plan and made the town famous. Although over time aliens have lost interest in kidnapping random people for their experiments, the law still remains in force. You can only imagine how strictly the law is followed by the fact that no alien UFO has since dared to fly over the town in more than 50 years. Number 7. It is illegal to kiss when the train is at the platform. Kiss whenever you may, but not when the train is at the platform. Apparently, several love-struck French people were responsible for delaying the departure of trains because they would not stop snogging at the platform. So at the request of rail chiefs, the law was introduced to prevent people from kissing while the train is at the platform, so the departures are not affected by lovebirds who are too lost in themselves to notice the huge loud trains. Unless you want to get arrested, do all the kissings before the train arrives. Number 6. You can write a check on toilet paper or any kind of paper. You don't specifically need a checkbook in France to write a check. According to the Monetary and Financial Code, you're allowed to write a check on any old scrap of paper or any other medium that is durable enough to be handled without damage. So the next time you find your old friend in a bar who owes you money but pretends to have forgotten his checkbook at home, you can get him to write the check on any piece of paper lying around. Of course, your bank manager may refuse to accept toilet paper as a check, but you still have the right to point out that you don't actually need a checkbook. Number 5. Everyone must have a bale of hay at home. All residents must have a bale of hay at home. In case the French king decides to pass by and his horse needs grazing, you should always have hay stored somewhere. Well, since France is no longer ruled by a king and the current president does not travel by horse, this old law is pretty much invalid. But you never know. Should a king return to power, granted a descendant is still living in France, you should be prepared. Number 4. It was illegal for women to wear pants in Paris until 2013. It is crazy to imagine that in today's age, women were legally banned from wearing trousers. Until 2013, there was this 214-year-old law which prohibited women from wearing trousers. The law was imposed following the French Revolution when the working class French women started demanding the right to wear trousers. Banning this move back then was symbolically equivalent to stopping women from starting a revolution and keeping them in their place. Since the 1800s, any woman wishing to dress as a man had to go to the police headquarters to obtain permission, and only then she would be able to do so. The law was amended twice since then. Around 1892, women were given the right to wear trousers if holding the reins of a horse, and around 1909, women were allowed to wear trousers if riding a bike and holding handlebars. Finally, in 2013, the outdated law was revoked, resulting from efforts made by feminist groups through decades. Number 3. Even snails need a ticket to ride the train in France. This next one is more of a rule than a law. SNCF, the French railway, has a rule for traveling with domesticated animals on the trains in France that states all domesticated animals must pay for a ticket to ride the train, and the price is dependent on weight. If your pet is over 6 kilograms, you must pay 50% of a normal second-class ticket, and if your pet is under 6 kilograms, you must pay 7 euros. This rule was put in place after a preschool teacher in Paris in 2008 decided to bring a box of about 20 snails on a train. When the ticket inspector asked for a ticket for the snails, it must have come off as a joke for all, but he was serious. He stated that the fee was more of an insurance for the animals in case the train has an accident and the animal dies. So if you want to carry your snails home on a train with you, better buy tickets, or you could wait a million years until they found their way home by themselves. The choice is yours. Number 2. 40% of the music played on private radio stations must be of French origin. For all the teens obsessed with Taylor Swift, time to take a break. Since 1996, by a law enforced by the country's top media regulator, it is required that at least 40% of the music played on private radio stations must be of French origin. Also, half of that French music must be less than 6 months old. Again, between the hours of 8 am and 8 pm, 70% of music played on French radio stations must be by French artists. So if you keep hearing the same music over and over throughout the day, no, you're not stuck in a time loop. It is the law in France. This was done to promote and preserve French musical culture because apparently the young generation tends to be inclined more towards American and British culture. Number 1. You are not allowed to take photographs of the Eiffel Tower at night. This may sound unbelievable to most of us, but this is actually true. It is illegal to take photographs of the Eiffel Tower at night due to the European Union's and French copyright laws. The EU copyright law states that all artistic works like songs, paintings, softwares, books, etc. are protected under copyright for the lifetime of its creator and an additional 70 years after his death. In the case of Eiffel Tower, the designer Gustave Eiffel died in 1923, and so the Eiffel Tower became public domain 70 years after his death in 1993. This is why you can take pictures of it and share them on social media, print it on coffee mugs, and do whatever you want without seeking prior permission. But taking pictures at night while it is illuminated is a completely different story because the night light display, which was designed in 1985 by a lighting engineer, is classified as its own separate artwork out of the Eiffel Tower. So the various illuminations of the tower like twinkling, beacon and events lighting are all protected under the copyright law for 70 years after the death of the artist. Since the artist is still alive as of the time we are making this video, no one can say when the copyright will expire. Will you get into trouble for taking pictures and publishing photos of the Eiffel Tower at night? That is highly unlikely. Although technically protected under copyright law, no tourist has been sued for taking a selfie in front of the tower and posting to Facebook or Instagram yet, probably because it would be a logistical and legal nightmare to go after all the photos floating around the web. Also, as of 2016, an amendment was made to the Intellectual Property Code which allows people to take photos for personal use. You can't sell the photos or profit them without getting prior permission, but you can share them on social media. So, those were some outlandish laws that exist in France. Remember them before you decide to pay a visit to the country. If you have liked the video, click the like button and let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such interesting content. This is Master List. See you in the next one.